Normal redditors that dated a celebrity, what was it like? My wife briefly dated Louis CK back in 2012. She says it seems kind of awful to be famous. Anytime they went out to eat or were in public they were just constantly interrupted or stared at. He came to her day party at some little bowling alley in Brooklyn though, and was pretty cool. The story that always sticks with me is that one day he went out and bought a $150,000 watch because he felt sad. Salma Hayek is my dad's childhood friend. They grew up together in Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz. They never dated, but they have remained acquaintances if not friends. I never believed him. They were friends until one day we ran into her in the airport and she invited us for dinner. She is a really nice person and a lot of fun to hang out with. Not a romantic date in the least, but I had dinner once at a Japanese restaurant in a group setting with Leonardo DiCaprio while he was in Louisiana filming Django Unchained. He wanted to know what college was like and was asking us all about our lives. He also let me try his udon. It was my first ever Instagram post. He really is such a nice guy in the limelight, and in real life it felt like we were hanging out with our friend. Hooked up with a chick who was in a soap opera a few times. Didn't know it at the time, but recognized her when I was at my grandmother's and she had her show playing. Not me, but my aunt dated Matthew McConaughey before he was famous. He ended up getting invited to her wedding to my normal uncle and proceeded to pass out drunk in the back of my family's car. He refused to leave, and now my dad refuses to watch his movies. My aunt went on a date with Jimmy Buffett. She said he picked her up, stopped at a gas station, bought a jar of pickles, and then drove to the beach. They ate pickles, and he took her home. A few years ago I was getting on a flight back to San Diego after my cousin's wedding. I was very hungover and judging people as I walked to my gate. I see this long-haired man stride by me in a purple button-down and think, who's this cupcake? Not a sexuality comment, just a shirt color comment. As he walks by I realize, holy shit, that's Fabio. A bit later after getting a snack, my brazen and probably still drunk self saw him sitting at his gate and just sat down next to him. I look away, then right at him and say, "You're Fabio," and he says so coolly, "Yes I am," and shakes my hand. We proceeded to talk for 30 minutes until he had to leave. He was so intelligent, discussed cancer therapies in depth, and I recall thinking, just nod and smile, Fabio is way smarter than you, just nod and smile. Before leaving he asked for my number and texted me the next day for a date. Nothing ever came of it, but I still have his number in my phone. Peas. My dad followed up for weeks to make sure I wasn't dating the man on every romance novel cover. My friend's sister-in-law was out jogging when some other random dude came up and jogged with her and talked with her about random stuff like the movie being filmed nearby at the time for a bit. After a bit of that, he said, "Oh, by the way, I hope you like the movie." They were filming The Force Awakens, and she only realized later that it was Harrison Ford. I had an English teacher that went on a date with Mark Hamill just after filming Star Wars in the 70s. She said he was a nice guy and was very humble. He said he was a small-time actor and said he had just finished a new movie that he thought might be successful. They only went out once and she never heard from him again. Saw him in Star Wars a few months later and had her mind blown. My friend's aunt went on a blind date with Gerard Butler. Circa 300, the movie, not the year. There was a big miscommunication because he was looking for a hookup and she's a kindly French Canadian woman in her 50s. But they both had a laugh about it and enjoyed supper with each other. She said he was very kind and very muscular. Probably too late for this, but about 15 years ago, when the show The Simple Life with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie was popular, I made out with Paris Hilton at a nightclub in Baltimore. Essentially, they were filming them doing all sorts of random jobs around the country and staying with local families, all for the culture clash laughs. One of those families ended up being my friend and her family. Being a close friend and a well-known admirer of Paris at the time, I was invited over and got to hang with her and Nicole Richie a good amount while they were in town. Both of them were super sweet. and a lot smarter than they played for the camera. Paris was a great kisser and this story is always a hit with my friends. A few months later, her phone was hacked and nudes were leaked. My number was in her phone book and I got spammed with prank calls from 4chan or something. I imagine it was a lot worse for anyone who was actually famous. Anyhow, basically lost total contact after that, but still a fun story. John Krasinski liked my Venmo donation to his charity, so it's basically like we're dating. A friend of mine banged Matthew McConaughey. She's a costumer in Hollywood and was hanging out in the bar at Chateau Marmont when Matt comes up to her and says, "How about you and me walk 30 feet and get naked?" Her initial response was lol no, but by the end of the night her friends convinced her she had to do it. This was peak 2000s Matt, when he was ripped and constantly shirtless. So she went up to his room at the hotel and they banged. Apparently it was sweaty, mostly from behind, and he preferred to watch them, mostly him, in the mirror. Same girl also dated McG from Sis, but apparently he was a total sweetheart. My mom lived in Key West in the early mid-80s. She dated Sting for a while. He had a really nice yacht, and they went on a sailing trip during which he realized my mom is psycho. She is. He ended it right after. Sometimes to duck with my dad I'll start singing Roxanne or Message in a Bottle. My mom dated Keanu Reeves back in high school. She broke up with him because he was too focused on his band with his friends at the time. If only. I have a friend whose great-great-grandma was in a relationship with Joseph Stalin. Edit. She ran off to America with another man. Not me, but my cousin dumped Elvis Stojko, figure skater, before he became a thing, to date the guy who became her husband. She always found it weird to see him in the Olympics. Charlize Theron flirted with me when I was an extra in her first movie. She was a nobody and had a really small role. Then her MacUpor assistant told me I was lucky for that. I was shy and backed away because it was odd having a girl hit so hard on me. So yeah. Not dated for any of these stories, but semi-related. My mom went to a party with Janis Joplin. She said she was wild, funny, but crude, and smelled like she hadn't showered or brushed her teeth in weeks. Janis Joplin died not long after. I went to university in Westchester, PA. Seeing Bam Margera, Ryan Dunn, and crew was a relatively common sight. The first time I saw them was the same night I got the call from my parents telling me that my family dog was put down, very old, very sick. My friends took me out drinking, and we ran into Bam and crew. Bam asked why I was down, and when I told him, he bought my drinks for the rest of the night. I went out bar hopping with them a few times after that. They were nice, but wild. Could never quite prepare myself for a night out with them. Ryan was as kind as could be and absolutely hilarious. My cousin was hit on by Shaq at a festival. When she pointed out that he was married, he allegedly said, "I'm Muslim. I'm allowed to have many wives." Damn, him so late, and I know this will get buried, but when my mom's aunt died they were going through her stuff and found a picture of her sitting on JFK's lap. No one knew anything about it. JFK almost definitely slept with your mom's aunt. He boned nearly every White House intern he had. So either way, she could put on her resume sat on the presidential staff. A family friend's mom went clubbing with Lady Gaga. Afterwards, Gaga asked if she knew who she was. Friend's mom had no idea. My college roommate's cousin, I believe, went on a date, maybe multiple dates, with Armie Hammer before he blew up in the social network, and apparently he forgot all about the date or dates they went on, and when he tried to reintroduce himself to her at another encounter, she said something along the lines of, "I know, we used to date. Pretty sure the guy's married now." My old English teacher is good friends with Serj Tankian, lead singer of System of a Down, and she always talked about having coffee with him, and I'm still jealous to this day. Not me, but my uncle dated the singer Pink in high school for a little while. They went to Central Bucks in Pennsylvania. Pretty neat fun fact, but it always feels a little awkward when someone brings it up at gatherings, because he is happily married now. This is also why I don't have any stories to share, lol. Apparently she was super chill and down to earth. My uncle was the type of kid to create napalm in his backyard and set the neighbor's pool on fire, etc. so I've always imagined she probably acted similar at the time. But I could be way wrong. My mom had a dinner date with George Clooney in the 90s. She didn't really say much apart from the fact that he's an interesting and charismatic guy, but she honestly didn't think he was going to blow up. I held hands with Isla Fisher in grade 3. We left for school holidays, and when we came back she didn't like me anymore. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.